The day I told my parents I needed surgery, I could feel the tension in the air before I even spoke. My hands trembled slightly, resting on my stomach, and I watched as my twins played quietly on the floor, unaware of the storm that was about to hit our lives. They were only 3, innocent, trusting, and too small to understand why their mother had been so exhausted lately, why she sometimes broke down in the middle of the night, crying alone in the bathroom. "I need someone to watch the twins for 2 days, I said, my voice careful, almost fragile. "I'm going to have surgery tomorrow morning." "Just 2 days." My mother looked up from her phone, the faintest flicker of annoyance crossing her face. She didn't ask if I was okay, didn't ask what kind of surgery it was, didn't even pause to breathe. "We already raised our kids," she said, tossing the words like they were stones. "We're done babysitting." My father shook his head, barely glancing at me. "You should have planned better," he added, his tone dismissive, like I had asked for something ridiculous. Babysitting. That's what they called it, caring for their own grandchildren while their daughter was going under anesthesia. Just babysitting. I tried again. I explained how the surgery wasn't optional, wasn't cosmetic, and how the doctor had warned me that any delay could be dangerous. I told them I couldn't risk the twins being alone with no one responsible. I even offered to pay them. Nothing. "You should have asked someone else," my mother said finally, brushing her hair over her shoulder, as if her life were more important than mine. I left their house that evening, my heart sinking with every step. Tears stung my eyes, but I refused to let them fall in front of the twins. I gripped my car keys like a lifeline and drove home, my stomach aching not from the illness, but from betrayal. That night, I tucked my children into bed. Their small bodies smelled like baby powder and trust, like hope I wasn't sure I still deserved. "Mommy will be fine," I whispered, pressing a kiss to each forehead, though inside, I was terrified. Terrified that I would wake up from surgery and my children would have no one who cared for them. I sat in the living room after they fell asleep, my body shaking from fear and pain, and realized something devastating. My parents had chosen convenience over love, over responsibility, over family. In that moment, the crushing weight of isolation pressed down on me. I wasn't just scared about the surgery anymore. I was scared of the people who were supposed to protect me the most. For the first time in my life, I felt truly alone. And yet, somewhere deep inside, a quiet spark of resolve ignited. If they wouldn't step up, I would find someone who would. Someone who understood that family wasn't about excuses. That loyalty wasn't optional. Little did I know, the person who would step in was someone they had underestimated, someone whose quiet presence carried a power they could never ignore. The morning of my surgery, panic had settled in like a heavy, suffocating fog. I had tried calling every friend, every neighbor, anyone who could watch the twins for a few hours, let alone 2 full days. Every number either went unanswered or ended with, "I can't. Sorry." My chest tightened with every passing minute. The hospital was calling, the twins were still too young to understand why Mommy was disappearing for hours, and my parents had made it clear, they didn't care. I was on the verge of tears when my phone rang. The name on the screen made my heart skip. "Grandpa." "I heard your parents refused," he said, calm and steady. His voice was quiet, but there was a weight to it that made me stop, mid-breath. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. Don't worry." 20 minutes felt impossibly long, but there was relief in hearing his voice. Grandpa had always been the quiet one in our family. Never flashy, never loud, never one to boast. But when he made a decision, it carried authority. And he never wavered. When he arrived at my house, he didn't waste a second. He knelt down to the twins' level, brushing their hair gently and whispering jokes that made them giggle. He promised pancakes, cartoons, and stories about the good old days, stories so rich with nostalgia and love that the twins' eyes sparkled in wonder. I felt a pang of guilt for even doubting him. In that moment, Grandpa became more than a caretaker. He became their shield. At the hospital, the nurses were efficient but rushed, and I could feel the fear coiling in my chest as they prepped me for surgery. My parents arrived shortly after, walking in with their usual expressions, disinterest thinly veiled as concern. They were here, but I knew why. Not to help. Not to care. But to see if I was exaggerating. to check if their daughter, once the center of their lives, was just another inconvenience. And that's when Grandpa stood up. He didn't yell. He didn't curse. He didn't plead. He simply spoke, calmly, deliberately, with a tone that demanded attention. "I watched you become parents," he said, his voice carrying across the sterile, white waiting room. "And today, I watched you fail at it." The room fell silent. The twins were somewhere safe, blissfully unaware of the tension simmering just beyond the hospital walls. But my parents froze. Every word from Grandpa's lips landed like a hammer, each one exposing the truth they had tried to ignore. He reminded them of the sacrifices he had made so that they could raise me without worry. How he had worked long hours to make sure our family had stability. How family wasn't optional, how responsibility wasn't something to discard when it became inconvenient. "You refused your own daughter," he said. "While she's being cut open, you were worried about your comfort." My mother tried to interject, her lips trembling, but Grandpa raised a finger, calm, commanding, unyielding. "I'm not finished," he said, and there was no mistaking the quiet fury in his tone. Then came the revelation that made my parents' faces go pale, the moment I will never forget. Grandpa had already changed his will. Everything they assumed would belong to them, the family home, heirlooms, assets, was no longer theirs. Not as punishment, he clarified, but as consequence. Life had a way of making sure people understood the weight of their choices. Shock, disbelief, and finally, fear washed over them. For once, the masks of superiority and indifference were gone. My parents were stripped bare in front of the truth. And for the first time in years, I watched them realize that actions or inactions have consequences. As they stumbled out of the hospital, muttering excuses that sounded hollow even to themselves, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sorrow. Relief that the twins were safe, that I was about to survive a dangerous surgery, and sorrow for the people who had chosen their own convenience over family. When I was wheeled into the operating room, Grandpa squeezed my hand. His eyes met mine, steady and reassuring. "Don't worry," he said. "Your children are safe. And now, so are you." And for the first time that day, I believed it. When I woke from surgery, the first thing I saw was Grandpa sitting beside my bed, the twins' hands clutched in his, their faces glowing with excitement and safety. He smiled at me, not the forced, polite smile of someone enduring responsibility, but the quiet, steady smile of someone who had done what was right when others wouldn't. My parents arrived later, hesitantly, as if the hospital walls themselves had warned them against stepping in too close. They looked at me, at the twins, at Grandpa and froze. He didn't yell. He didn't humiliate them. He simply spoke the truth, calm and piercing. "I raised you once. I helped you once. Today, I watched you refuse your own daughter when she needed you the most." Their faces went pale. My mother's lips quivered. My father's jaw tightened. Grandpa's next words hit harder than any slap or insult ever could. "I've already adjusted my will. What you assumed was yours, is no longer. This isn't punishment. It's consequence." Silence swallowed the room. Shock, regret, fear, they were visible in every line of their faces. Pride and entitlement had evaporated. For once, they were powerless, unable to undo what they had ignored. The twins hugged me, giggling at Grandpa's silly stories, completely unaware of the tension they had diffused. And in that moment, I realized something I had never understood before. Revenge doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it waits quietly, and when it arrives, it is precise, undeniable, and unforgettable. And that day, through Grandpa's quiet power, dignity became my fiercest weapon. My parents never refused again. They never apologized either. But the lesson, they would carry it forever. And I finally felt safe. My children were safe. And justice had been served.